stupid, so you dial back to what's realistic. But if you don't have them there, once again, it starts to look like just a synthetic construct like off lines. Skin shading, this is a fun one. Traditionally, the way you would do this kind of stuff is you would paint a texture map for the face, suck a little bit of the red out so that when you put subsurface back in, the red kind of appears and you end up with the sort of balance that you're looking for. That's kind of correct, and that's what we've been doing for the last 20 years, ever since we started using subsurface on Gollum, but it's not totally correct. Melanin is actually a significant contributor to the equation also, and it's very important when you're talking about somebody that has African American skin and dark skin, because the thing that makes their skin darker is the presence of a lot more melanin in the skin. So we have to account for the melanin in the skin. The reason why that's important is that if skin's a thick medium like this, blood's all the way through it, melanin is this thin layer at the top, right? But it does have its own thickness. The reason that's important is that if you're looking straight at somebody's skin, you don't see as much melanin as if you're looking at a grazing angle, because your light has to pass through more of the melanin before it gets to the red colors underneath. So melanin becomes a very view-dependent part of the equation. The reason that, what that accounts for, what the result, I guess is the proper way to say it, is that if we were just to paint a perfect texture map for the face, when you look sideways, it would look wrong, because it's not view dependent. The texture sticks to the face. When you look sideways, these areas should be dark, these areas should be yellow. But when I look forwards, these areas should be yellow, these areas should be dark. It flips around. So we actually have to go in and account for all that. So we start with white. We also, turns out there's two kinds of melanin. There's pheomelanin and eumelin. And if there's any scientists in the room that want to correct me on my pronunciation, I've been butchering those words for years now. So we have to account for all those, how they layer together. And what you end up with is this view-dependent look where when you're looking at the front of the face, you see richer, lighter colors. And when you're looking at the grazing angles of the face, you see darker, less saturated colors. At Weta, we wrote our own renderer quite a few years ago, but we only started really using it about 2 years after we wrote it. It turned out it was a very slow renderer. But the renderer, the main thing was the path tracer. There's a lot of path tracers out there now, everybody knows about that. But our renderer is also spectral. What that means is that we don't see red light as an R value. We see red light as a red wavelength. So we actually do all the math inside the renderer in terms of wavelengths of light. It sounds really cool. Obviously, paint packages don't paint in wavelengths, so we still have to do a lot of stuff in RGB. But we have equations that look at it and try to figure out how to properly convert that back into spectral values. It's very important because when we're talking about melanin, we actually know the absorption coefficients for spectral math for melanin. So not only we're getting melanin right, but now as we apply different colored lights to the skin, we actually get the proper result back out. We don't get just a mix of multiplying the two colors against each other. We actually get the proper absorption of how that pigment absorbs different frequencies of light. So to properly achieve this, we actually, on this show, we always do photographs of the lights. At the top right, you see the little round, I don't know if you can see my cursor, can't see the cursor. You see the little light in the housing. We always take high resolution photographs of the light so we can put them on the reflection card, so when you see a little highlight in the eye, it actually looks like a light, not just a magical white square. But on this show, we also took a spectrometer with us onto set, and we actually gathered the spectral wavelength of every light in the light kit. So you can see that on the top left, sorry. And it tells you how the lights behave. And for the most part, this one's a relatively standard light. You can see there's a little bit of an even value to it. But when you get into some of the LED lights, you'll see some very significant spikes in it. And LED lights affect your skin different than normal lights. So once again, we have to account for that. So you can see that we captured all the various lights in the show. We did what we call an extended HDRI. When we photographed the front of the light, we did a 7-stop bracket, and then we put a 10-stop filter on the light and did another 7-stop bracket. So we actually got about 22 stops of light off the light, which meant that we can actually resolve the filament on an HMI. Fun thing to know is that if you put a cameraman with a Canon camera in front of the light about 10 feet away from that HMI, he gets really hot really fast. So we tried to be nice, and we put something in front of him so that he could actually look at the camera while he was trying to set up, and that thing caught on fire, and we realized that we were actually cooking him. So HMI is bad. Now this is a good one just to show you that colored light, little subtleties in colored light, and it really manifests itself on blue light. Blue light on brown skin, if you just are using RGB math, is a nightmare. Some of you can probably guess why we went down this entire path. It's no secret that we started writing our spectral render right after Avatar. Having to deal with orange lights on blue-skinned people was a nightmare. On Avatar, we had to write a lot of shaders to try to get around the inaccuracy of it. Now we're actually doing it all quick. So when it came time to shoot the movie, the biggest challenge we had the biggest physical challenge we had was that there's only one Will Smith, and we wanted Will Smith to perform both roles. It was discussed having somebody else perform the role of Junior, and then we would just map a Will Smith body onto it, but we told them that you would recognize that they weren't Will Smith, and the counter to that when I told them that was, they told me, well, we could get a really good Will Smith impersonator. And I said, you know what, we have the best Will Smith impersonator on set. We have Will Smith, how about we use him? So we had to come up with this methodology, we called it the AV approach. And what that means is, I'll show you the shot from the movie, then we'll talk about it.
And in that moment, the world makes perfect sense. How do you think I know all that? I don't give a shit how you know anything. Look at me, dummy!
So we start with Victor Hugo, who is an acting partner for Will Smith. And to us, this was very important. If you take an actor and you give him a tennis ball and say, this is a person, and he's really caring about what you're saying, you're going to get a different performance than if you put another actor on the other side of the person. So we cast somebody who was just the right height, who could carry the role, who had the naivety that Aang was looking for, to do a good performance and try to give a good counter to Will's performance. Now, by no means did we say to Will that became the performance that he had to match. He was totally allowed to recreate that performance. But on set, we shoot it with Victor Hugo playing the role of Gina. The next step is, at the end of the shoot, we set up a mocap stage in Budapest on one of the sound
And in
stages.
that moment,
And Victor
the world
plays
makes
the role
perfect sense.
of Henry. He's pantomiming now.
How do you think I know all that?
And you see that he's not getting
Shit,
it right
I
all the
don't know
time.
anything. Look at me, dummy! And in that moment,
The fact that it's cutting, you see these little cuts in there. When we go to the mocap stage, we tell them that we have to have a star take. So they pick a specific take that they're going to do all the lineup to, so we can do all the tech survey for it. In edit, when they turn the shot over to us, they then picked another take to use, which meant for different timings. So to get the mocap to work, they just snipped out little times in between so we could get it right. You get that to the animation team. You'll notice at this point, we've completely removed Victor Hugo. Once again, body is performance. We don't want to ever put Will's head on a body that doesn't belong.
dummy!
The mantra was, whatever body performance was key was the body that you had to work with.